in Woodinville, joined with Dan Mellis with Nexa Mortgage. He's in Renton. I am in Snohomish, Clearview to be exact. My office is in Woodinville. And we are going to share all things real estate and lending with you guys this afternoon. So anyway, are we live, Dan?
We are live, Kat.
Live yes, on YouTube, live on TikTok. Okay, good.
Oh gosh, it's been quite a week.
How's it going, Dan?
You know, it's going pretty good. It's a strange week. It's kind of raining outside a little bit. It's the middle of June.
It is. It's a little bit gloomy today.
It's a little strange weather for June. But anyways,
yeah, I got my heater on in my house.
Actually, I do too. I've got my heater going on right now.
And it's a little coldy out here.
Little chilly down here in Renton too. I mean, I think it's like 58 or 56, something like that. For June, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we've got a big show this week. A lot of stuff happening.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Greg. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Kim. We got some stuff to talk about.
We've got some stuff to talk about. That's right. So you know what? You want to jump right into stats by Kat?
Let's just start off with stats today.
Okay.
So let's talk about how the inventory is creeping up.
That's a big story right now.
That's a big story, you guys. The market is softening a little bit. Good for buyers, bad for sellers.
Want to go with Kitsap?
Month supply of inventory is up to 1.2 months in King County. That is the highest level that it's been this year. So the whole year has been much more of a seller's market than we're in right now. However, it is still a strong seller's market. We've got, let's see. So we've got 45% of sellers that got under contract within the first 7 days if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. 59% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. 54% of sellers in King County set offer review dates. And we had 1,761 current listings on the market. That's single family residential, not including new construction or condos or attached townhomes or manufactureds. So the big thing this week is just the increasing inventory. And if let me grab my stats book because I just want to compare how many went pending last week. Okay, this is the raw data, Dan. So last week we had 459 homes come on the market.
Okay.
And we had 382 went under contract. So that's gonna add to inventory. So it's not enough going under contract.
And that's for King.
That's for King. Yep. And we have a similar dynamic. Although Snohomish County actually chewed up all of the, not all the new listings, but they actually sold just about the same number as came on the market last week. So that's good because their inventory numbers won't continue to go up, at least not right away. Okay. All right, let's do Snohomish. I'm coldy. coldy. Okay, here we go. Gotta get my angle back here. Okay. 45% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market in Snohomish County if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. 53% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. 47% of sellers in Snohomish County set offer review dates. And Snohomish County currently has 1.1 month supply of inventory, and that is up. So that's the highest level that it's been. The low was in April. I believe it was the first week of April when it was down to 0.5 months supply of inventory for a single family. Not new construction, not condos.
Hmm.
So
that is drifting higher, isn't it, Kat?
A lot higher. Yeah. 1.1 months supply of inventory. That's a lot for Snohomish County. So, all right. So we've got Pierce County. 33% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. And we had 46% of sellers get under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. 25% of sellers in Pierce County set offer review dates. Looks like a little glare going on in my glasses here. And Pierce County month supply of inventory is up to 1.4 months. So
that's up a bit too, isn't it?
It's going up, you guys, across the board. Everybody's going up. So Mason County, 15% of sellers went under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. But 42% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. We only had 7% of sellers set offer review dates in Mason County. And Mason County month supply of inventory is up to 1.8 months. Skagit County, 36% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. 41% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. 46% of sellers in Skagit County set offer review dates. And Skagit County month supply of inventory is up to 1.5 months. Kitsap County, 40% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed their home between June 2nd and June 8th. 50% of sellers in Kitsap County got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed their home between May 19th and June 1st. 43% of sellers got 43% of sellers in Kitsap County set offer review dates. And Kitsap County up to 1.3 months supply of inventory. I didn't do any smiling in there, Dan. It's going to be hard to chop up those for videos.
No,
oops, I said that. Hi guys, I'm not mad at you.
I'm gonna cut them up, and we'll put one of those little placards like prisoner number L104038 right under. We'll hang it right under you.
It's me being grouchy. Oh my God! Thanks for joining, you guys. Look at my pretty flowers. Look at all my foxgloves back there. I gotta lighten the mood here. I gotta lighten my own mood.
Hey,
I need a cocktail. Something's wrong here.
All you TikTok viewers here, welcome to the grumpy edition of the Dan and Cash.
That's my cat. This is the grumpy edition. I don't know why. Oh my God, I'm never grumpy. Oh my God. So, you know, there was another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about today. The laws changed this year in Washington State.
Yep.
I haven't talked about it a whole lot, but we're now required to have a buyer broker services agreement signed with our buyers. They really want us to do it before we show them even the first home, but for sure we need to get it done as practically possible. So oftentimes I'm on the porch, front porch of a house, the buyer brokerage agreement in hand, and the buyer brokerage or the brokerage Washington State Brokerage Services pamphlet, and handing that to my buyer and explaining how we get compensated as buyer brokers. And then also that they are disclosing whether they've already signed a buyer broker services agreement with another agency or broker. So it's a disclosure from the buyer to the broker, and it's also a disclosure to the buyer how we get paid, how we are compensated as buyer when we are working as a buyer broker. So anyway, so that's you know, and we can make these agreements for, let's see, because let's just go through it here. So it starts off by just identifying the buyer as well as the broker. And then it talks about, are there any geographical limitations? Like, you know, normally I just put Puget Sound area. That's where I work.
Right.
And then it just says agency. So then we're required to give out the pamphlet, real estate brokerage in Washington State. And then broker appointment is basically saying that I'm being appointed as your broker. And then you can determine if it's an exclusive broker agency agreement or a non-exclusive. So we can actually sign an agreement that's non-exclusive, which means that you could have other broker agreements with other brokers, right? Brokerage agreements with other brokers. Buyer BBSA is what it's called, Buyer Broker Services Agreement. You can have a BBSA with another broker too.
So you can have complicated. You can have a buyer with several buyer's agents. Or
you could if they're not doing exclusive. I mean, and that's exclusive is ideal because, you know, you need to know that, you know, when you're working with that buyer that you're going to be compensated when you start spending time working with a buyer. So I'm not probably going to take a non-exclusive, probably wouldn't be signing a non-exclusive buyer agency or a BBSA agreement with a buyer. Right. I would want it to be exclusive, at least for the one particular property. I'm not going to show it to you and then have somebody else get paid, you know, if you bought it. So, and then there's a paragraph about limited dual agency. I'm not even going to get into that. Don't do that. I don't. You don't represent a buyer and a seller. That's not, you can't do that ethically. I do not believe in Washington State. And then it gets into firm dual agency. Well, firm dual agency we're okay with because it would mean that my designated broker's a dual agent because I'm representing a buyer that's purchasing a home from a listing agent that works for my same office. So we still have our separate representation. So we always have agreed to allow that. So, and then compensation. So there's a couple of boxes here in compensation. There's compensation to firm. So let's see, firms shall receive the following compensation at closing. Right now, it says that there's an amount offered by the seller as a percentage of the purchase price. So you can mark that box, or you can mark another box that says percent of purchase price, which will be paid by the buyer. Now, in Washington State, customarily, the seller has been paying the buyer brokers compensation. And by the way, you guys, that's going to continue in Washington State. The NWMLS has opted out of the NAR settlement, which means that we are going to carry on pretty much as we have been this year. So there are going to be a couple more changes to the listing agreement and to the buyer broker services agreement, but it's not going to affect us too much. We're still going to be having these same conversations. So
if I understand the timing of all this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the Northwest NMLS came out with these changes back in January.
So the ones I'm talking about here, the ones we're talking about for this buyer brokerage services agreement, this is just for Washington State. So we actually are cutting edge in the country as far as having the most transparency in the real estate process. And so that is one of the reasons we've decided, the NWMLS attorneys decided not to include themselves in the settlement, you know, so I don't want to get into too much of that. But we believe that our way is a better way than what is being proposed than when NAR and the rest of the country is being forced into. Okay, so they're being forced into a situation where you're going to have smoke and mirrors around selling office compensation. I guess I'm not supposed to talk about this. Oh, I just did, guys. Sorry.
Well, moving on to the next subject.
That is a bag. It's a good thing it's not on Facebook Live.
See, there was a blessing.
Oh my God. Well, so you know, so along those lines, so the rest of the country, they're not prohibiting sellers from offering compensation to the buyer broker, but as I understand it, it's not going to be advertised to the public or to other members. So we're not going to know, unfortunately not us, but the rest of the country is not going to really know I don't even know how they're going to address that situation. So, because what they want to have, what the point of what the lawsuit was, the outcome that they wanted was for buyer brokers to go show properties regardless of whether compensation was being offered or not. So irregardless of the compensation being offered, they wanted properties to be shown equally. And so in our area, what we've decided to do is continue with showing the buyer brokers compensation to the public. We feel like that's very transparent. That way buyers can decide whether they want to go see the property that's offering 2%. If you have, maybe your broker works for 3%. And so maybe you would, as a buyer, opt not to see that property that's, only offering 2% if you might have to compensate your buyer broker the other percent, or negotiate that in the transaction. So again, I don't think we're supposed to be talking about that.
Well, if you'd like to move right along,
I think we'll move right along on that. I'm just going through the buyer broker services agreement, guys. We have to sign this. You might as well hear about it. Anyway, so basically we're agreeing to work for X amount, right? Is that as a buyer broker. And then you get to decide what properties that you want to see it, and with the understanding that if the seller is offering less compensation than what I need as a minimum, then you can choose not to see those properties if you don't want to, or we can figure out a way to try to work that into the offer. The rest of my compensation, because I do need to get paid. That's how I earn a living, guys. You wouldn't take a 30% pay cut. Okay. Can you tell I'm grouchy? Totally grouchy today. Okay. So, and then there's another section which talks about property showings, and it just says broker shall or shall not be obligated to show properties to buyer for which there is no agreement of compensation. So now there will be a specific box for you to check. And whether you want to be shown properties that offer a zero compensation to the buyer broker. In the past, we just weren't obligated to show those properties, but now we are, if you want us to. So there's very few of those. To be fair, most sellers think that buyers agents are worth something and they should get paid. So there's very few properties that don't offer compensation. Right. The vast majority do, you guys. It's really almost not even worth having the conversation because it's just so few that don't. But it's forcing us to have those conversations. So termination. So the agreement can be terminated from either side unilaterally. Okay. And the last one is agency representation. So, and the buyer now is going to disclose whether they're currently working with another broker or agency. So there's a disclosure for the buyer in there as well. So, I think conversations about these things are probably good to be had. It forces a dialogue that wouldn't maybe normally exist. I've always told my clients that the seller pays for the compensation. And generally speaking, what sellers normally offer is considered the norm. So usually it's 2.5 to 3%. And I'm fine with that. It's, if it gets less than that, I get angry. I get grouchier. So anyway, so that's that buyer broker services agreement. So we need to have those signed with our buyers now, really before we start showing you properties. So we need to sit down and have a kind of a buyer consultation, if you will, before we go look at houses, if we can, if that's practical. Otherwise, we can try to do that consultation on the road in somebody's living room. So, you can make it happen. So anyway, that's what I got today, Dan. I mean, the market's getting kind of squishy out there.
It is getting kind of squishy. And a couple things real quick, and I'll just whip through them, and we can take a look at how this all kind of pieces together a little bit. But thought I'd start with interest rates. Not to bore everyone to death, but this is the 10-year Treasury And what's interesting is you could kind of see a 3-step down, 2-step up type of pattern, or 2 steps down, 1 step up, whatever you want to call it. And
it's got a downward trajectory, Dan.
In a downward trajectory since late April.
Yeah.
And we closed up about 7 basis points. It's a pretty big move higher in rates today on the 10-year, but it was fairly thin trading. And you're going to have retail sales coming out. This week is not a huge week for some of the economic numbers coming out. We've got retail sales coming out tomorrow, along with the 20-year bond auction. We've got the markets closed on Wednesday for Juneteenth.
That's right. That's a holiday, right?
That's a holiday. And then you've got, but on Wednesday, they also have the release of the National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index. That'll be somewhat interesting. Thursday, you got mortgage applications, housing starts, permits, and initial jobless claims, I believe, will be coming out on Thursday as well. And then on Friday, we've got existing home sales, which is sort of the big report. Next Monday, I would assume they're going to have new home sales, but existing home sales usually the bigger report of the two, or more impactful. I will say this: as we move forward, I think the markets are going to. Let me stop sharing, get off of that page. But I think the markets are more and more going to start looking at the employment numbers, and so it's going to be interesting to see on every Thursday when they come out with the initial jobless claims. I think it's going to have more of an impact on the markets going forward. So, it's something to keep an eye on. Another thing, and I got 2 more things to cover here real quick, but one more thing. I was going back through an old real estate forecast presentation from January. So it was the January 2024 forecast. And one thing that's interesting is, historically speaking, even as we get into these softer patches, if you will, and I think it is going to be a softer patch, because if interest rates continue to come down, which I think they will, then you're going to see, I think you'll see more demand coming on the market. But one thing to keep, in mind is that we do have extremely tight inventories even now. I mean, with just the sheer number that are on the market. And if you take a look at the bigger picture, household formations are still outpacing completions by a long shot. So we have a lot more people coming into the market looking to buy, but not that much more in terms of new housing completions. So it does bode for a tight market to an extent going forward. And so
because it looks like the household formations is increasing at a more rapid rate than even though the building completions are increasing as well. It's not as quick a rate even.
Right. And so you've got that gap, and it's going to keep, basically, I think it's just going to keep things tight, going forward. Maybe consider it like a little bit of support underneath the market, that it can only go down so much if things start getting weaker, and there's going to be a limit. Some of us veterans that remember back in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, I think a lot of folks are envisioning that type of market. A lot of buyers out there are kind of dreaming of that, and then they're going to scoop up, come on in.
No, it's not going to happen, guys. There's no.
It's going to be more nuanced, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're going to see, like, the market is softening right now, you guys, but it's not going down.
Right. That's right.
I'm literally talking about a hot market that's now not quite as hot, but it's still warm.
But that's right.
It's more than warm. It's just not that crazy market that we saw earlier this spring and late winter.
It's gone from maybe a hyperventilated market to something that's a little more rational.
Where we were getting 60% under contract within the first 7 days, and going a little over 70% in the first 14 days getting under contract, to now where we're looking at between 40 and 50% the first week on the market, and then 50 something percent getting under contract that second week. And, you know, those are not bad numbers, you guys. If you're really well prepared for the market as a seller, you're likely to get off the market that first 7 days.
Right.
So very, very likely to get off the market that first 7 days. Whether you set an offer review date or you don't set an offer review date. You know, there was another topic that I was going to mention too, really quick.
Sure.
The offer review date situation, you guys, I really am on the fence on that. I've got a townhouse coming up, and can't advertise in advance, but I've got a townhouse coming up, and I don't know exactly when, but down the road. And it's going to be a good price point, and it's got a brand new kitchen, and then we're updating the primary, and it's got an attached garage and back to Greenbelt, and it's got kind of the goodies that you're looking for when you're looking for a townhouse. It's the end unit. It's going to have some more updated lighting in some of the areas in the entry and the kitchen. And so my quandary is this: do we set an offer review date? Because just by nature of it being a townhouse, we're going to get less attention. It was kind of like when I put my manufactured home on the market last week. So last week we went under contract. Yes, it was. And I anticipated less attention than a single family home. Well, actually, I guess I was kind of wrong. We ended up with about the same number of people through as we had in my Everett listing a couple weeks before that. And that was a single family, single story home. That was a single family Rambler. And we listed that one at 800. And went over asking with just 2 offers. We only got 2 offers. That's the thing. And we had about 50 people through those 3 open houses as well. And the same thing happened last week with manufactured home on owned land with a 1,200 square foot shop. We had almost 50 groups through that weekend, and we only ended up, we got 3 offers total, right. And barely over asking. And so my fear is that I set another offer review date for this townhome and that we won't quite get that activity. Because when I talked to other agents that have recently listed in there, even in March, April, and May, they didn't seem to have very many showings. But maybe they're not doing what I'm doing. Maybe they're not holding it open all 3 days and knocking doors. I'm knocking on doors, guys. So, you know, so my quandary is this: do we go ahead and just set an offer review date and risk it? Because you only get 1 offer. That's it. You're not going over asking. Or should we test the market? My feeling is maybe we should test the market. So we come on the market. I'm going to do Thursday morning. So I have 2 days I can walk the neighborhood because there's 126 townhomes in there. I want to knock on every door. That might be ambitious. But I thought, you know, if we go on the market Thursday morning, I walk the neighborhood in the afternoon on Thursday and then in the afternoon on Friday, and advertise the open house for Friday afternoon at 4:30, from 4:30 to 5:30 for the neighbors only open house, and then 5:30 to 6:30 for the public. And, you know, and we wait to see what happens during the open house, right? So Friday. And then, because Friday, historically, recently, the open houses have been fairly strong Friday evenings. And so we'll see how that goes. And then, you know, hopefully nobody's written an offer yet. I mean, we want offers, but I'd like to get multiple offers if we can for the seller. So hopefully we hadn't gotten any by Friday, and we hopefully could get into the Saturday open house from 11 to 1 or 2. And kind of take a pulse at that time. So either on Friday night, take a pulse and decide whether to set an offer review date for either later that weekend. If we find out somebody's going to write an offer, we could set an offer review date for Sunday or Monday. And then just let all the other brokers that have been through know that that's what we're going to do. My feeling is maybe we should do that. Because I think that gives my seller the best opportunity. So if somebody's wants to write it early, then we just set an offer review for within a day, within 24 hours of when that first offer is supposed to come in.
You know that you could do that
for the buyer too. It feels more fair for the buyer.
And you know, if somebody wanted to present a bully offer significantly over asking price, I bet you'd be willing to look at it.
Yes. Yes, if you're willing to look at that. You only get those, though, if you do set offer review dates. So that's the thing. It's hard because we did get a bully offer on my last listing. We didn't take it. Dang it. It wasn't a very good bully offer.
But you still sold it first weekend.
We still sold it first week. We still got over asking price, and that really is important. Hey, mister, what do you eat? What are you nugging on over there? Hey, don't eat that. Whatever that is, don't eat it. My little Havanese, he's trying to eat things. Don't eat it. What are you tearing up over there? Don't trust you.
Well,
but anyway, I thought that was interesting. So then, just to finish that topic, so I am running my own experiment. I am conducting my own survey this week. On Saturday morning, I took a look at which sellers have set an offer review date for this week. So I've got that set aside in a cart on the MLS. And then I've got the other set of, and this is for King County and Snohomish County. Then I've got the other set of sellers that did not set an offer review date. They're in a different cart. So I can go back later this week to see how many of them made their offer review dates. So going to be very interesting. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because most people review offers on Monday or Tuesday. A few are set for Wednesday, a few are set for Thursday. But we should have a very good idea of how many people made their offer review date. So I'm going to have that information for you guys next week. I'm excited because I want to know, in this market where it's starting to feel squishier, are those offer review dates working? Is it worth setting? I don't think anybody has the answers. I'm going to have some answers later this week. So I'm excited about that. Look at me push through my being grumpy.
There you go. There we go. Okay. Last thing on my list, and I've just got, this isn't going to take long, but I did run into a buyer this week that we were working with, and they're self-employed. And so, when you're self-employed, that you want to maximize your tax write-offs, right? I mean, you want to pay as little as possible. But when you maximize your tax write-offs, what happens? You're reducing
income goes down.
Your income goes down. Underwriters don't like. That's right. The better the accountant, the lower the income. And the clients I had were working with some fantastic CPAs, just terrific. Goodness gracious.
So basically, you're saying they just didn't have shit for income. So you got to do it. So now what you're saying is they're going to have to do a bank statement program.
Now they've got to go with the bank statement program, and they're
instead of a conventional loan, right?
Instead of a conventional loan, that's right. And this is what they call a non-qualified mortgage loan. Basically means it's a non-Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type of or FHA loan, and this is a type of loan where they will look at the bank statements because the borrowers, for your self-employed, so the lenders know that, hey, they're self-employed, 1099. They're throwing in everything but the kitchen sink for tax purposes.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not an accurate reflection of what they're really making, right? I mean, there's a lot of that's very legit. I mean, you could do the accelerated depreciation.
I mean, write-offs are write-offs. You're taking
write-offs are write-offs. That's right. Yeah. So it just depends on the situation. But we'll just go through. I think I got 3 slides up here. I'll go through them real quick. But basically, bank statement programs are non-QM loans created for the self-employed borrowers who can't qualify for conventional loans due to tax write-offs. And they don't really show their true income when they're analyzing the tax returns. And all that is absolutely true. And so the borrower must own their own business for 2 years, but there's an exception in there. So for 2 years, they have to establish their business, right, for 2 years. But they say if you've worked in this area before, because sometimes you'll have an employee that takes over the business from the previous owner, right? It happens. They're the employee. They know the business. They've been doing it for a long time, but they haven't owned the business for a long time. So in that situation, they can step in with 1 year, with the 1 year self-employment option, if it's in the same line of work for the prior 2 years. And they have 2 options. You can come up with a 12-month or a 24-month personal bank statement, or you can come up with either 12 or 24 months business bank statements, right? So we're really trying to make these things work. And there are limitations. For the personal statements, the borrower must own 25% of the business. To use the business statements, borrower must own 50% of the business. And then they apply a formula to how much income they're going to accept. But it's a very good program. And how the income is calculated, basically they'll take the bank statements that you submit, they'll look it over and figure out how much they're going to count for their income. And they'll apply some sort of expense ratio depending on the business and the lender. We've got one lender that doesn't apply any expense ratio. Zero. They'll take all the income you can show on the bank statement.
Wow.
Problem is with that, you're going for the highest rate humanly possible in this situation, right?
You pay for that privilege.
You do. It doesn't come free. That's for darn sure, right? So
we're a pricing Gotti.
Yeah, the pricing's not particularly good, but you know what you're ending up with is a house that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So
right.
But you got to be making some serious whip in this market to be able to pull it off. But a lot of times people are making a lot of money, and there's as many different loans as there are transactions out there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's hard to put, especially self-employed borrowers.
Self-employed is challenging. Always has been.
Well, it's sort of a beast unto its own, and you could still get self-employed loans through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but there are a lot of exceptions to that, where you might run into problems, and so you've got these other lenders that'll do these things like the bank statement loans, and basically I'll just go through I think this is the last chart, but they'll go up to 80% loan to value, minimum FICO score is 640. I mean, that's pretty darn reasonable, right? Yeah. 640. Yeah. They'll do it for a primary home, second home, or investment property. So 1 to 4 units, warrantable and non-warrantable condos, PUDs, townhouses, 6 months reserves required on subject property.
Yeah.
And then let's say you've got a husband that owns a business, and then you've got a wife that works at another job, W-2. You can include both incomes.
Nice.
So they've got, it's a very good program. It's designed to really get you into a house, and then hopefully in a year or two you can always refinance it. So you've got, and then they've got profit and loss options that you can go through, and that you have to have a profit and loss statement prepared by your CPA or tax.
Right.
And you can call me for details, but I just wanted to bring that out because it's an interesting program. It's one that's getting a client into a house that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to qualify for. So
right.
It's as a viable alternative, it's a great program.
Statement, loan statement or bank statement loan, right? That's what that's called. Yeah.
So they're pretty cool.
I like it.
That's about all I
for that.
What's that?
Call Dan for that.
Oh yeah, call me for that. Yes, that's it for sure. We've got it. I looked it up before the live stream today, and I think we've got like 42. I can't remember the exact number, but we've got like 42 lenders that do bank statement loans or something like that. Just a lot of them. So what you try to do is figure out what the situation is with the client, and then go to do they qualify for the best rates? Right. Or we're going to have to be a lot more flexible with this one, and then they go to, they have different lenders for different situations. So, but it's a good loan. And if you find just the perfect house and you're doing a ton of write-offs and it's not going to work income-wise, it's a great alternative.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's great. I like that you're covering different types of loans.
Yeah, well,
I think that's amazing. We need to,
we need to talk about it a little more because, we've got more loans than you can shake a stick at. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I love that about you guys. It's one of the reasons I recommend you so often is that I figure you've got a loan for every scenario.
We do, and our rates are good. I don't want to pump up our company too much, but the truth of the matter is, our rates. I'm very comfortable with the rates that we're able to offer, but the more important thing is. The number of different specialty situations that we're able to address. Yeah. To address. That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just just an interesting situation that came up over this past week. We've been able to help. So looks like it's a little chilly outside of where you're at.
Freezing. The wind is picking up, and my hair is completely fallen flat and frizzed. And I'm like, feels like it's snowing out. It's June. How could it be this cold in Snohomish, Washington? Oh,
well, I'll tell you what. On that note, how about if we call it a day?
We're gonna call it good. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, you guys, thanks for watching. Kat. Thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks, Dan. That was really fun.
Thanks, Kat. Had a great time.
Okay.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
It's all right. Let's see if I can get closed out of this. TikTok